Good day, guys. Welcome to Fante on Apodel's Multimedia channel. On this episode of our usual Fante lesson program here on this channel, we are going to take you through telling time in Fante. Yes, telling time in Fante. If you are asked to tell time in Fante, would you be able to do that? Yes, on this channel, we are first going to give you the very first part, that is the part 1 of how to tell time in Fante. Please, don't go away. We'll be right.
Yee, me fancy kasesua kunenyim. Apodel's multimedia yo.
We are very happy you are still here and ready to learn how to tell time in Fante. First, let's give you a brief information about time and in Fante. You might know that, but in Fante, we're going to give you a brief information about telling time and stuff. Well, you know that time is very important when it comes to human life. It's very, very important because we make use of time. We have to wake up early to do some stuff, to travel, and time is very essential. And to tell time, we use watch to tell time, or clock. Now, how do you say watch in Fante? In Fante, we call watch wati. Wati. The reason is watch is not a thing that has got to do with the Fante people. It was brought in by the whites. So the name watch was re-spelt in Fante using our alphabets and how it would sound suitable to us. So thereby we got the name Wati. Now, every watch or a clock, so to speak, has 3 hands, as you would agree with me. It has 3 hands. And the 3 hands move from left to right. All of them, they move from left to right. Now, what are the names of these 3 hands? What are the names of the 3 hands in Fante? The very first hand that we have in a watch or a clock is called the second hand. In Fante, we call this hand, the second hand, Semaba Nsa. Semaba Nsa. Where Semaba means seconds. Semaba means seconds. And Nsa means hands in Fante. Sorry, in English. Hands. So seconds hand. Semaba Nsa. The second hand that we have on a watch or a clock is what we call the minutes hand. The minutes hand. In Fante, we call this Sema Nsa. Sema Nsa. Where Sema means minutes and Nsa, as usual, means hands. Please take note. When we got to the second hand, we said Semaba. Ba means born, like a child, a little one. In Fante, ba, ba, ba. So Sema Nsa, that is minutes, hands, and seconds are broken down from minutes. Seconds are broken down from minutes. So that's how we have Sema as minutes and Semaba as seconds. So in other words, Semaba, that is seconds, they are pieces of minutes, pieces of minutes. Now the last hand of a clock or a watch is what you call the Donsher Nsa. Donsher Nsa, which in English is eyes hand. Eyes hand. Now, after taking you through this brief information about watch or clock or timing in Fante, we want to move straight into telling time in Fante, specifically some specific selected times that we want to tell in Fante. Sorry. Now, the very first image on your screen, as you can see, the time is 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. So in Fante, how do we call this time? As it is shown there, abo no nan. Abo no nan. Now, before we proceed, take a close look at the no nan. Ndon is the sound a clock makes in olden times when they make the bell, they ring the bells, dong, dong, ding, dong. That sound the clock makes in dong. That sound the clock makes in olden times is what was used in Fante. So abo ndon, the sound, nan. It means the sound has been ranged or has been made the fourth time. So non-nan, that is the origin of that. So abo means the time is. Please take note of that because we're going to run through the timing with the word abo. Abo. It means the time is. The time is. That is what it means. Na nan anan is 4. Ndon nan. So to say it well is abo non nan. Abo non nan. Let's go to the next. You can see the time is 6 o'clock, right? So we say nonsia. Abo nonsia. Now the next is 12 o'clock. Abo dwebien. Abo dwebien. Where dwebien is 12. 12. Okay, so let's go to the next time that we have there. That is the time is 8 o'clock here. 8 o'clock here. Yeah. So we say abo non watchi. Abo non watchi. And see, to say it well, abo non watchi. Abo non watchi. Any of that. Abo non watchi. Abo non watchi. Let's go to the next time we have here. I think the time is 2 o'clock, as you can see, in English. But in Fante, how do you say 2 o'clock in Fante? Abo non ebien. Abo non ebien. What about when the time is 1 o'clock? 1 o'clock. As you can see in the image, the time is 1 o'clock, right? So we say abo donker. Abo donker. Let's take note of that. Okay, so what about the time is 5 o'clock? When the time is 5 o'clock, how do you say that in Fante? 5 o'clock, as you can see on your screen, in Fante is nonum. Nonum. Nti abo nonum. Abo nonum. What about the time is now 3 o'clock? 3 o'clock, as you have on your screen. 3 o'clock. Abo non ebasa. Abo non ebasa. It means the time is 3 o'clock. And the last one that we'll consider is 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. When the time is 7 o'clock in Fante, we say abo nunson. Abo nunson. Okay, so that is all we can take you through for now. Thank you for staying with us in Telling Time Part 1. On our next episode of Telling Time in Fante, we will walk you through telling time when the time is past 30 minutes. Let's say 1:30, 2:30, 12:30, 3:30. How do you say that? That is what we'll be taking you through on our next episode of Telling Time in Fante. At this time, we'd want to thank you for coming to the channel And hey, please, if you have not subscribed to this channel, you are missing out a lot. Please subscribe to the channel. Kindly share the content and press the notification bell so that you will receive current updates as we update you. Thank you for coming, and we want to say a very good day to all of you here for coming up here as a team on our Fante channel. We love you all, and expect more from us here at Apodels Multimedia. Until then, we'd call it bye-bye.
Sesiara dze mutum kamfansen kakra. Osana Podels Multimedia mfanse kasesua nsi.